Oh, hi. This week, if you can believe it, we're doing a project video and not just a studio vlog or market vlog. I am doing 3 markets this weekend because I am unhinged, but I have so much inventory. So outside of custom orders for people and like alterations in the next month, I am dubbing this entire month Dress Timber, because every year for the past couple of years I've made this list at the beginning saying these are the dresses I want to try. Last time I organized my patterns, I set aside a certain stash, and I haven't made any of them, and there are some that I've made but I want to make just minor tweaks to that I keep not doing. So not that I'm going to do all of those this month, but I am going to start with at least one of them, which is referred to as the Walkaway Dress. It's Butterick B4790. I don't know why my brain glitched there. And it's like a reproduction pattern, and I have no idea what the difference is between the older one and the newer one. I know patterns in general are more beginner friendly than they used to be because most people don't know how to sew. I guess that's the end of that sentence. But by the shape on the back, I've just never seen a dress go together like this. It looks aprony, but also just like a really intriguing design. I don't know. So I found this for $10. Even the reproductions have been very expensive to find. I want to give it a try because I've just never put a dress together like this, and I don't understand how it works at the moment. So let's figure it out together, shall we? I'm already just looking at the contour lines, like, are they fisheye darts? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Also, I just painted my nails, and this is how bad they are. Not that the paint job is anything pro, obviously, like, it's a mess. But the reason I have started painting my nails this year is because they shred. Like, that's just because that was weak, and I thought covering it with nail polish would help it not come apart like that. But it sucks, and I hate it. So if you're like, oh, I've noticed you've been painting your nails lately, I'm just trying to help them not constantly be broken and like split in the middle here and on the side. It just like cracks in half, and it's so painful, and I'm tired of it. And I can only take so much biotin supplements. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. I'm gonna jump into this. I'm very excited. Now, the more recent project videos I have done, I've like filmed the whole process of making the thing ahead of time and then tried to remember to take notes down, and then done this like talking head part at the end and just kind of sprinkling it through. But we're both at the same phase of this journey. I have not started this yet. I don't know how this is gonna go. It's possible we won't have a dress at the end of this, but god damn it, we're gonna try. I assume since it's 3:15, it's 3:30. Yikes. I am maybe gonna get the pattern cut out today. I think I'm gonna trace onto just some artist tracing paper rather than cutting up the tissue paper. I am almost through a whole roll of Swedish tracing paper, but I like to save that until it's a pattern I know I'm gonna reuse, and like once I've workshopped it. But I have a whole roll of this artist tracing paper. I don't know what else it would be called, but I find it really helpful and clear to write notes on and everything, because I've used colored tissue paper from the dollar store before, and that's all well and good, but this has a little bit more structural integrity and I can see my own notes a lot easier. Also, hi, if you like the jackalope earrings, I make these and I sell them. So if you want your very own, I have a ton of different colors, and I believe every option is listed in my Etsy, but I'm happy to make custom ones. Off we go to start the whole process. I hope this goes well. I'm anticipating having to make at least one round of adjustments, and that is why I will be doing a mock-up for this one. Thing is, every version of this dress that I've seen has been very retro 50s housewife Betty Draper style as far as like the fabric choices and just how the whole outfit is put together. What I desperately want to do is just make a spooky one, because I haven't seen any spooky ones, and I want it. I need it. I crave it. So if we get to a final version this week, I do have a specific fabric set aside, but there's a whole bunch of different fabric we could use for this. Also, if this has been bothering you for the past however many weeks / months of videos, I do have a plan for all of these scraps. I usually save all my scraps in a specific scrap bin in like a gigantic tote bag. Actually, I have 2. I'm down to 2. I had 3, but I use it for stuffing in dog toys or for like little cushions and stuff like that. So it does end up getting used up. These are too pretty to put in there because these are all my like extra fun, exciting fabrics. So I have plans. I promise I'm not just like storing my trash here. It's also to keep it in front of my own face so I don't forget that it's there, because I genuinely have the memory of a goldfish and it is infuriating. But yeah, I'm excited to just make something for myself and figure out how it goes together. I feel like I go through waves of being in like learning mode and challenging myself to stuff I've never tried before and techniques that I'm new to and just figuring out how certain things go together. And then there's like the inventory building phase where I end up doing a lot of the same thing where I'm like trying to master a specific set of skills and just fine tune it and tweak it and get really, really comfortable. So it's like second nature. So like installing a zipper, not every single way to install a zipper, but most ways of installing a zipper I'm pretty comfortable with. And that's just from doing it over and over and over and over again. So I know that there are ways I haven't figured out as far as like having a zipper across the top of a bag that like hangs off the end so you can open the bag like all the way up. I would like to do that, and I can't quite picture how it goes together. And now I desperately just want to find a pattern for that and make it happen. But that's for another day. I do kind of get in these moods where I just want to like make a bunch of the same thing with different fabrics, but I've made so many sling bags. I've probably crossed the 50 mark now. Ooh, and speaking of, I printed my own fabric. I made a Mothman one, and I was so excited about it. And I did, of course, want to make like 20 of these, but I wanted to like cool my jets and make sure the people wanted it before I made a ton of them. And I did end up selling it already, and not even at an in-person market. Someone saw it on an Instagram post that I made and then commented about it. It was like, is that a Mothman bag? It's like, it absolutely is. And then they ordered it. So that made me very happy. I will always be the most stoked when people purchase things that not only I have made and like I've picked all these fabrics to put together, but like I created the actual design of the fabric, and I want to get more intricate with it, not just have singular stamps on it, but also add some like zhuzh to the sides and surrounding negative space. As for this dress, I really like things that come in at the waist and then floof out at the bottom. So very like 50s fit and flare type of cut. I enjoy how I look in that cut of dress best. I do not enjoy empire waist things. I do not enjoy drop waist things. So things kind of cinching in at the smallest part of me, which is at my high waist, like where my belly button is, and then flaring out past that. As for the size I'm cutting out, I should figure that out, right? And you know what? It's been long enough since I've measured myself. I am gonna get the numbers really quick. So I need bust, waist, and hip. And obviously there are size ranges to patterns, so normally you kind of have to pick like the really tiny ones or like the large of the straight sizes. I don't know that Butterick is the best about having like actual proper plus size patterns for a lot of their stuff, so I can't speak on that. I am very privileged in that I fit in the larger section of the straight sizes. As for measuring, it doesn't have to be complicated. All I do is have garments on that are close to what you will be wearing when you have it on. Now, I'm not going to get all the way down to my bra and underwear for this. Or if it's a dress, I'd be wearing a bra and bike shorts underneath. But I have like kind of a chunky sweater, so I'll take this off. I just lost my hearing in one ear. I don't know if anybody else has tinnitus, but I just randomly go deaf and it's very disorienting. And there's like not a super loud ringing, but there is a dull ringing, and my head just feels so stuffy on this one side. No, I don't feel congested, but normally like you can dull your hearing by like covering your ears or like stuffing stuff in there. So I almost get that physical sensation when my hearing goes out, just because those are always correlated together. Also, weirdly, I go completely deaf in both ears whenever I throw up. I don't know why that happens. There's some tie between like your inner ear and your stomach, and I think that's why I get really bad motion sickness. But it's not only just, oh, my balance is off up here, so my stomach is queasy. Apparently it also works in reverse, where if I'm queasy, my ears are like, shut it down. Anyway, how in the world did I get on that train of thought? Measuring? around things. My hearing just randomly went. That's what happened. Again, memory of a goldfish. So yes, I'm going to take the chunky sweater off and then measure around my waist, which again, smallest part of me personally, which is right around where my navel is, and then hip is the biggest part of me. So I go around my butt and just keep everything at the same horizontal plane. So try to keep it evenly around as far as the height of it all, if that makes sense. So like if you're measuring around your bust, don't let it drop down to like your mid back on the back side of it. Try to have it be like a slice of you that's parallel to the floor. That sounded much more gruesome than it needed to. Hopefully the visual is explaining it a little better than my mouth words. Don't suck anything in because you want it to be comfortable while you're wearing it, and unless you plan to be sucking anything in the whole time, just like don't distort your body just to have different numbers or whatever. Like make it so it'll be comfortable for you so you will wear it. I have a 38 chest, 32 and a half. Maybe we'll go with 33 waist, and that is 42. So yeah, now it's just a matter of finding the size at the top of the size chart over here, figure out what pattern size to go with. And there are ways to grade between patterns. We'll tackle that if we need to. I've never actually done it, but it seems pretty straightforward. Like I understand the concept of it, but you know, never know till you actually do it. It is looking like this has at least 2 darts per boob. So I actually think there's 3 per, so 6 total on the front and then 2 on the back. I've never not had to adjust 2-part darts. It never fits right for me because I'm not particularly big chested. So I think I'm gonna go with a size 18 because the bust is 40, the waist is 32, and the hip is 42. Also something to consider, most commercial patterns have a ton of ease, so we're almost definitely gonna have to take all this in anyway, but I'd rather err on the side of too big versus too small. It'll be easier to take things in than to let things out. And it'd be good to kind of gauge just how much ease is involved in something like this. It's also specifically marked as very easy for a pattern, so we'll see about that. Oof, it is saying we need between 4 and 5 yards. I don't know about that. I mean, I have multiple bed sheets I can use, so like I'll make it work, but that is one of the bigger amounts that I have seen before. And y'all know me, I love a good color block, so we'll get creative if we need to. I will say I was very like, what in the fresh hell when I first laid out the front bodice piece, because that's a buck wild dart action. I understand what it's trying to do, but it just looks like a lot. If I was a beginning sewer, I would run away from that so quickly, even though it says it's a very easy pattern. And now that I have actually looked everything over, I do think it's going to go together pretty quickly. Also, as you can see, I didn't end up tracing over the skirt pieces, but that's because there's a very easy way to change the size on this by just folding parts over, and also making essentially a circle skirt doesn't stress me out in the way that like trying to duplicate these patterns. Like if I have to tape and cut and tweak and add to the tissue paper on the bodice pieces, I don't want to do that kind of damage to the pattern yet, at least. I'd rather have my artist tracing paper take the brunt of that. Also for the front bodice piece, it's supposed to be like shoulder to bottom hem, and there's no way I'm wearing a dress as long as this pattern is indicating. So I'm gonna shorten it a bunch because I'm a hussy. And for maybe the first time ever, I did not get frustrated folding this tissue paper sheet back up following the factory folds. I don't know why this one wasn't so stressful, but it went together very nicely and I could put it nice and neat into the envelope. Then, if you can believe it, I read the instructions before doing anything else. Honestly, I probably should have read the instructions before I started cutting things, but here we are. And it was nice seeing it's just one sheet of instructions and it doesn't even fill out both sides. It seems like this is not a lot of steps, which I appreciate. My theory is the most annoying part is going to be doing the darts, because darts are always annoying. As for fabric for the mock-up, we're going to get into the bed sheet bin. I did discover a green bed sheet that I think was like a table cover. I keep calling it a bed sheet. It may have been a tree skirt, and then the idea of it actually being a tree skirt, like a skirt that I can make to have me look like a tree. And I have these stars that I cut out for my Rocket Man outfit from a few years ago. Also, I have a holiday party in a couple weeks, so ideas are brewing, and I have this silver elastic. So I think I'm gonna do whatever past me had an idea about. We're going full kitsch with this, and I'm gonna be a tree. God damn it. I do have most of the sheet left over from these shorts I made. I do still need to workshop the shorts patterns, and there are pieces I want to Frankenstein from different ones from the Mood Society website, because I like elements from each one, but I didn't like any singular one enough to want to wear those. But I still have all of the mock-ups off to the side, so I can refer to them as I work through that, but now is not the time to be doing that. So I traced around the main shape of it with just a Choco marker thing, like one of those clicky wheel guys. I do enjoy using them, even if just for the sound. I probably could have used my rotary cutter for a lot of this. And I did try using my Taylor marker, like dart pen thing. I love it, and I'm not giving up on it, but something about the bobbin I was using didn't fit quite right into it, even though I thought they were the same size. Also, this was just pre-wound in a color I don't like, so I thought that would be good for doing the Taylor's tacks, where you like poke it through and you pull the thread long enough that when you separate the two layers you can snip between, and then you have a little thread mark on either side. I find that very helpful for darts. Tried multiple ways to get it to go together, and then there just wasn't enough give at the bobbin for it to pull out nicely, so I ended up snapping the thread and I gave up. And then I used something that I was gonna have to use anyway, because I have fisheye darts to trace, and there's not really a good way to do it other than this, where I took some marking paper, like tracing paper. It's like a very fine layer of chalk on the colored side. So you lay that facing the fabric, facing the wrong side of the fabric, and then you take a tracing wheel and go over the lines on the pattern. And it's also very fun to do this, but it was extra steps, and I had to walk all the way through the door into my office. The cutting table I'm using is just outside of my sewing space that we're in right now. I still love the Taylor marker thing, but we need some space right now. Okay? Mommy and Daddy need some time apart. Then it was time to tape the skirt pieces together. This is a lot. I thought this was just going to be a normal circle skirt, and that was the initial reason I just cut these out of the tissue paper, but that's not quite what's happening, because again, this is like a wild way to assemble a dress, and that's why I got the pattern in the first place. So why did I think I knew better than the pattern I don't understand yet? Anyways, the skirt pattern was in two pieces, and then you need to cut out two of them. So I was able to get one out of the rest of the polka dot fabric. It was exactly the right width. It was very satisfying to lay this out. Again, probably could have used my rotary cutter, but I'm confident I will be shortening that. I just don't know how much yet, and I'd rather, while I have the fabric, cut it out as big as I can and then make my mock-up. I'm also realizing, you know, we're at the end of the day, Tuesday. P.S. It's the next day that I'm giving these updates, but I still haven't even assembled the dress yet, so we're getting there. But I am realizing I need to have more time to design the dress I want to make. I want to like reassess the fabric stash I have, because I have ideas, and knowing how this actually goes together, I can visualize it better and even take pictures of myself in the mock-up and then use that as like a croquis to design what I want to do. I kind of want to do some detail stuff on this dress, because that's not a thing I do often, but I kind of want to just do some like fun handiwork things, and I want to give myself time to like workshop it. So we won't have like the final dress for this video, but we're obviously working through a bunch of stuff. I have ideas happening, but I need to give them time to percolate. Then I have this, I don't know, like, it's not a duvet cover, it's not a bed sheet, maybe just like the world's biggest body pillow cover. I've had body pillows, and this seems much bigger than the ones that I have used, but I don't know if there's like a standard body pillow size. And I used one panel of this striped thing to get my second skirt piece. So that was all of the pieces. It's two skirt pieces, a front on-fold and a back on-fold. So interested in how they attach to each other. And that brings us to right now. So it's like 2 o'clock on Tuesday. I didn't actually get anything cut out last night. I started doing some admin stuff. I have, as I mentioned, 3 events this weekend, and I wanted to make special signage for it to try to incentivize people to get some of my tote bags, because I really want to move those along, and like there hasn't been a lot of interest in them for months. So I'm going to do a 2 for $50 sale. Also, there's like a permanent code in my Etsy shop that I almost never mention. It's just bog trolls. So if you want to put that in, I don't remember the percentage you get off, but that's like all the time. I don't have an end date for that, so you can always use that discount code. I also am stealing this idea from somebody that they just had stocking stuffers above some of their small things on their table. So I figure putting that above my keychain bags and my dumpling bags will be good, just to like get people into that headspace. Also, I needed to print out some type of business card situation because I completely ran out at my last event, and I've been low for a while, but I don't want to / don't have time to order from Vistaprint, which is where I've gotten them before. Also, if you're like, wow, that's a lot of ink, this is not an ad or anything, I just deeply appreciate this method of getting ink, where I have an HP printer and they have an instant ink subscription where I have 50 pages a month that I can print as much color as I want. I don't know if it's just like growing up a poor kid thing or if everybody thinks this way, but thinking about doing color prints is like, that is so luxurious and not anything any normal people can afford. So not having to worry about how much ink is getting used, and it's just how many pages I'm printing. So since each sheet has a front and back, that counts as 2 pages, but it's full ass color. That's why all my signage is color in the background with white font, where I think it looks nicer and like more professional and more like put together than having it with a white background with this color font. I never liked how my signs looked before, and then it occurred to me like, right, I can have a full color background and that'll be a little more engaging to the eyeballs, especially because I have black backgrounds for all of them. I mount all of my table signage on just black poster boards that I also round the corners on. I don't know why rounding corners on things makes such a difference to my eyeballs. I enjoy it very much. Maybe because like my font is very soft curves and everything, that having harsh corners wouldn't suit it very well. But even for these, I hated them until I rounded the corners. I really did not like how they looked when it was just a pointy square. My fairy god Cheryl came in clutch in gifting me a thing I didn't know existed, which is a crocodile corner chomper, and it does 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch corners. And I fucking love it. So that's what I've been up to in the midst of making this dress. I have about 15 minutes before I have a lunch date with my partner. I normally don't get to see them in the middle of the day, so I'm excited. I've also been cat sitting for some friends, and I partied with the cats this morning for a bit. Hopefully I will have time once I'm back from lunch to finish sewing the dress, whatever I don't get done right now, because it's 8 darts, but then there's like 3 or 4 seams to put together. There's a little bit of stay stitching, but there's no gathers, there's no ruching. It seems pretty straightforward. And again, it's called the Walkaway Dress because you're supposed to be able to like whip it together in the morning and like be ready for afternoon tea. Especially because I'm not gonna mess with like binding all the edges because there's a lot of bias tape involved in the instructions, and I love how bias tape edged armholes and neck holes look. I think it's gonna look really, really nice, and that's one more detail I get to add to the design process. Like knowing it's all bound with bias tape gives me one more avenue of like flair I can add. I'm very excited about it. Hopefully before I go check on cats tonight. And then I'm also gonna do trivia with some friends, where I have been hosting trivia once a month, and it's fun, but I haven't gone to play trivia hosted by someone else in a hot minute. And I put the trivia games together because I love playing it. And I'm not particularly competitive, but it is music trivia. So I have a lot of fun trying to recognize songs. I kind of like do it anyway when there aren't points to be earned, but I'm very much looking forward to doing that, especially with the friends I'm going to be hanging out with, because they're the best, and I don't see them often enough. But isn't that the case with literally every single one of my friends? Because adulthood sucks shit. Remember getting to just like go over your friend's house most afternoons, like do your homework together before all of us had jobs? I mean, I've been working since I was in middle school, but even then I had some downtime. Unrelated, I don't know why this song got stuck in my head this morning, but the Pepper Ann theme song came into my head, and I used to love that cartoon. You know, ye old MySpace days, I had Pepper Ann as my name on there, and I'm sure it was in brackets because were you a millennial teen if you didn't have brackets or asterisks or something before or after your name on social media things before it was even called social media? Oh god, and then someone else reminded me of Top 8. There was always drama about that kind of stuff between other kids I went to school with, which not everything's a competition. So, all right, I'm gonna end this ramble and hopefully have a sewn together garment at the end of this. Well, I did get all the darts in and was like, wow, this is a really wide bodice. And then realized the center line is the longer edge. It's gotta be. There's no way it goes together the other way. Also, the dart comes over this way, not towards the center. Though, I will say, obviously me stitching the front center panels together is gonna take it in whatever the seam allowance is, so probably like an inch. But I've used Butterick patterns before, and usually the center needs to get brought in anyways. If you're newer here, or just, it's a weird fact to retain, so it's okay if you don't remember this about me, but I have a skeletal deformity where my chest caves in the middle there, called pectus excavatum. So it does make sense that the center needs to be brought in a little bit. And yeah, I think it's gonna work out fine. I just need to make a point to adjust that on the pattern so that I remember that I did this adjustment. And I will cut the part that's supposed to be cut. Look at that. As for the first fit, obviously things aren't fully attached anywhere yet, so it's hard to get like a precise fit, but considering how this is gonna be going together, I'm feeling pretty good about it. The main issue for me, which does not surprise me, is I need to mess around with the darts. I am contemplating extending the side darts in so that they are ending in line with where the fisheye darts are. So they'll not quite be touching, but they'll be at the same lateral coordinate. That's probably not the right terminology, but it'll be as far in as the fisheye darts are. And then this is how it looks on the back, which like obviously you can't see underneath all of this other fabric, but there's going to be a loop and a button holding the very top edge of the back together. So that's why it doesn't need to be touching, and also it's all going to be edged with bias tape, so I won't be losing any fabric to like hemming here. And then the loop will actually be out of bias tape, which I think will be fun to put together. And then the way the back skirt section comes up in the front, there's the waistline, which I'm debating lowering a little bit. I honestly think if I just do a smaller seam allowance, because I did 1/2 inch on all of this and it doesn't need that much. I could have gone 1/4 inch and probably done better with everything. I might unpick all of this and give it another go at a smaller seam allowance and see how that looks. Maybe I can unpick while I hang out with cats during my check-in. They never seem to mind when I bring a crafty project over. And then it does say to put like those metal snaps and then cover them with buttons for this front center section. But I think what I'm going to do is just use the cam snaps that Jeanette sent me. I have so many fun colors and I don't get to use them as often as I would like. And this seems like a great opportunity for that. It's not too bad. There's not as much ease as I was anticipating. Normally stuff is like 4 inches too big or something, but that is not the problem. Okay, just kidding. I did all the unpicking here because I forgot I have this scalpel seam ripper that is glorious, and it got it done in like a couple minutes. So the seams I took apart, narrowed the seam allowance from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch, where the skirt attached to the back panel, that center line that I had, where I do still think it needed to get taken in a little bit, but like I halved the amount. So the total amount I've taken in now is a 1/2 inch instead of a whole inch. So the pattern I folded over 1/2 inch, but you double that when you cut it out. So now I'll just need to fold it up a 1/4 inch so that when it's doubled, you're only taking in 1/2 inch if you followed that at all. I also took out the shoulder seams and redid those because I figured that would help lower things. And then I did extend that dart closer to the center, but then I had opened up that center a little bit and it's hitting perfect. So with this second test fit, I think we've already got it. I just safety pinned it in the back. As far as the front, I think the waistline is hitting at exactly the right height now, and there's a perfect amount of overlap to fit some of those snaps along the front. So I think we got it. I'm not gonna bother doing the bias tape edging on this because like it's not really a wearable mock-up because I hate all of the fabric that I used, but that's what it's for. And now the fun part is gonna begin where I'm gonna work on the design for what I want to have as far as color combinations. I do want to have the front section be a contrast color to the rest of everything. I think that would be a lot of fun, the way it overlaps in the front. And I'm going to take my time designing that and then making it happen. So that's going to be the next video, since this actually was a little more involved than I anticipated, but it was a mock-up session. So like, this is the time to figure things out. So like, of course it took a little while. And I'm just excited to have finally figured out how this pattern goes together. This has been so much fun, and it did in fact sew together very goddamn quick. Before I go, I do have to give a big thank you to everybody over on Patreon. It is because of y'all I get to take the time to work on stuff like this and take the time between videos to workshop and refine what the final product is going to be. I can't wait to share that with you. As for me, I'm gonna go. I will see you back here in 2 Fridays. Thank you so much for hanging out. 4790. It's too many numbers for me to remember at once. Why did I get on that tangent? Sorry, that was probably really gross. Bodies are weird, man.